This episode is sponsored by Well Balanced Nutrition and 360 Health.
Welcome to the Health Geeks Book Club podcast. Listen in as Kristen Norton and Eleanor Russell review all those great health and wellness books you've been wanting to read or you have read and want to talk about. Here's Kristen and Eleanor.
So happy money.
Woohoo! I want some happy money in my life.
You know, I would take just slightly disgruntled money at this point.
Yeah, and me too. Are you ready to take control of your health and wellness journey, but don't want to do it alone? Look no further than Well Balanced Nutrition. We offer personalized nutrition and wellness coaching tailored to your unique needs. Our integrative, whole-person approach combines the latest evidence-based practices with compassionate guidance. Whether you're managing health concerns or seeking to optimize your well-being, take the first step towards a healthier, happier you by booking a free 15-minute consult with one of our registered dietitians at wellbalancednutrition.com.
So let's talk about happy money, and it's a book. Isn't that a good title for a book?
Mm-hmm. It's an international bestseller.
I know when this showed up on our list, I thought, huh? But we have been looking for books in financial wellness because that's part of our Wellness Wheel. And we have read another one called The Psychology of Money. But this sounded like, is this a cartoon book or what? It's the Japanese art of making peace with your money. Okay, well, that gives us a little more. And the fellow's name is Ken Honda, and they call him Japan's best-selling Zen millionaire. And Kristen, I had trouble finding out much about Ken Honda. Were you able to find out anything about him?
I was only able to find videos, but not much about him.
Well,
he tells his story quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. So I found out a little bit about the fact that he, I think is born in Japan, had a father that was an accountant.
Right.
He evidently did very well and sent his son Ken to a university called Waseda University in Kentucky. In Tokyo. That's my Japanese for you. Oh, my brain just had a slide there. Oh, so what is that university? I never heard of it. And so I looked it up, and it's a private research institute that was started in 1882 in Tokyo as a professional school. So it may be kind of one of those top-notch things like in their country, like we have some of our institutions over here like Harvard and Yale that we think are prestigious, cool, private, funded, and not everybody gets to go to it. Then, well, anyway, this kid got in there, and I think he finished. I'm not sure. I didn't find that out. And then they say he's owned several businesses, and he's, but which businesses did he own? I don't know. So that's all I know about him. And the book is published by the John Murray Learning, which is John Murray Press, which is under the Hachette UK umbrella. And we've read some other books through Hachette, and we're happy with that publisher, I think. So there's no index. There's one page of references. So it's
a smaller
book. It's a different book.
Different. Yes.
And I like this book. As a matter of fact, I've used it in conversations. It's kind of surprised me how it shows up.
So you were happy with happy money?
Oh, I was very happy with happy money.
Well, he says he's a personal development guru, and he knows that getting rich quick is no way to achieve happiness. Too often, money is a source of fear, stress, and anger, sometimes breaking apart relationships and even ruining lives. We like to think money is just a number or a piece of paper, but in this book, he tells us about emotional or money EQ instead of money IQ, right? Emotional intelligence. He helps us unpack the myth of scarcity and embrace the process of giving money, not just receiving it. So lots of interesting nuggets we can talk about here today.
Oh, yeah, but I want to talk about the little fun story he tells, because this is what I've shared with people because I was so stunned. He says he's at a party, and this woman comes up to him and says, "Let me see your wallet." Has that ever happened to you?
Apparently this is a normal thing?
Well, he said it was in the context. At the time, there was a thing going on in Japan about celebrities' wallets.
Oh.
And what do celebrities have in their wallets? And so it was kind of a buzz. And
Okay.
so that's why
That
he
makes
didn't.
more sense. I
Yes.
didn't catch that.
I didn't either. I heard that on one of his other things,
Okay.
a podcast. But which he does have podcasts out there if you want to listen to them. They're kind of entertaining. The idea that this woman comes up to him and says, "Can I see your wallet?" And he says, "Well, as long as you give it back with everything in it, I'll let you look at it." And so she takes the wallet and she opens it up and she feels the bills and goes, "That was good. That was good. That was good." Puts it all back together and says, "You're good." And he says,
Your money is smiling, she said.
"Yeah." And he said, "Huh?" And in the book, he doesn't tell you much about this, but she tells him, "I have an unusual sense. I can pick up on things that other people can't pick up on. And I can tell that money came to you through love and through a positive energy." And he talks about happy money and unhappy money and the difference. He says happy money is circulated with love, care, and friendship, and it makes people smile, feel loved, and cared for deeply, whereas unhappy money is circulated in frustration, anger, despair, and it causes stress, depression, and can even lead to violence. And, we've seen this. So I thought, okay, well, what is money? And he asked that question too. So what is money?
What is money to you? He goes into this could be answered in several ways.
Yeah, he says
right?
it's physical and it's a commodity, a vehicle for exchange of services and goods. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what a lot of us think about money. But he says, what does it mean to you, which is what you just said. And what is the emotional attachment? And, we've read some other books that have to do with emotional health. Mm-hmm. And here it comes again in this book about money.
Right. And he asks you to think about your past and what stories you have picked up from your childhood, from your parents, from the era that you grew up in about money. So we all have different stories that bring about different emotions, like money is the devil or money is the root of all evil.
Or work hard and money will follow.
Right.
Ken Honda, I would say, is a very observant man, and he spent a lot of time observing things and what happens to people when maybe they get a lot of money and then they lose it all. Mm-hmm. He observed and he's talked to people and he's interviewed people. But his father, I mentioned earlier, was an accountant, and he says this is the guy that taught him karate and kendo. And yet he came home one day and the guy was crying. His dad was crying, which he'd never seen because he was tough. He could take care of himself. And what had happened was he had denied a client of his a loan. And the fellow went out and murdered his family and then committed suicide. And the father felt responsible for that, even though after he had said no, he had reconciled his thoughts and thought, well, no, I'll go back and let him have the loan. But he never had the opportunity because the fellow was so depressed, I guess. Anyway, his father never recovered from that. He turned to alcohol, lost his smile, and carried that burden for the rest of his life. And so that was his personal, close experience with watching his father. He'd watched his father's clients as a child come in and, maybe in poor clothes and then end up coming to visit his father in better clothes, seeing that they're improving their situation. So that family experience informed him about money. Mm-hmm. In a very unusual way.
But then once his father experienced that, it seemed like it was a very unhappy environment at home. Dad was easily triggered. And then mom was always walking on eggshells. So he tells a story about he wanted to go to this camp I think it was to learn English. And his mom was like, well, wait till your dad is in a good mood, which was never. So the poor thing, that has stuck with him. And I think we all have those stories that have stuck with us or things that we've picked up from our childhood, but we don't think about. We just kind of carry these as our view of money.
Or how much of our time is spent thinking about money other than getting it? Really, most people, this would be an unusual book for somebody to pick up, I think.
Yeah. It is, the only reason we kind
of pick it up.
looked for something like this is because of the wellness wheel, right? Wanting to round things out. Mm-hmm. And this does not really fall into the typical books that we've read, like heavy on research. And
Correct.
this
It's
is kind of
observation.
more of a health coach, but a money coach, a money mindset coach, maybe.
Yeah. He says his job is to make all money happy in the world. If numbers make you smile or make you feel squeezed is how you can tell if it's happy money. So anyway, that's his job, to make all money happy in the world. He is a Zen millionaire. Did I remember that he did mention he'd made a lot of money, a fortune, by the time he was 20.
Yeah.
But he lost it all by the time he was 30. Is that he was with his child on the playground, and I can't remember the sequence of events, but he had a little one, and it was on the playground, and he watched a mother try to pull this child away from having a great time playing and saying,
Yes,
we've got to
Mom
go,
has to go to work.
I got to go to work. I got to work. We can't stay and have fun. We got to go to work. And he said it broke his heart. And that was his pivotal moment. You know, in a lot of our books that we're reading, people have a nidus or an event that changes the course of where they...
An epiphany.
Epiphany. Maybe that's it. Yes.
Sorry, I
that
use this microphone that's in front of me. Epiphany.
Yes, epiphany.
Well, I guess he has a couple, because he also shared that dream of his daughter saying, what are you going to do in the world? Right? And he's like, well, I'm just a nobody. I can't change politics. I can't do this. And in the dream, her eyes just kind of looked really disappointed and sad. And that dream really stuck with him when he woke up. And he's like, I'm going to make a difference in the world. And here's how I can do it. This is what I know about money.
And I think he coaches people through this.
I do, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that back to that, what is money? He wants us to think about how we feel about it, because if we focus on that, then we can control it, because we can control our feelings at some level. And he talks about the myth of scarcity and how so many people believe that. And if you believe that, it's going to lead to a scarcity mindset, which is going to lead to the negative stimuli and effects that are going to move your money through the world with that attached to it. And I just love the idea. Like, we're here with Tim today, right? And this is his job, and this is his business, it's his passion, it's his love, but it's also his livelihood. And, you know, there'll be a fee. Well, you and I are going to give that to him with love and abundance, because we are so grateful for what he's allowing us to do and share with you all out there in podcast land, that it's all going to be good, and that money's going to serve him, and he's going to move it to probably the renter here, the building rent or so. And if he does that with the generosity, because he's so happy to be in this lovely studio with these wonderful windows, that's what Ken's talking about. We got to get that mindset that money is a current of energy.
Yeah.
You know, and I've kind of embraced that one. I like that too. It's not just a paper vehicle. We're moving energy between ourselves that can serve us well if we're thoughtful about that and think about it that way.
Yeah, I kind of want to let this soak in even more, because this is a fresh book. I just read this right before, not right before we came, but so it really hasn't stuck with me, but I really like some of the message. And I kind of want to say something you mentioned. We can control our emotions, but perhaps this shares how he feels a little bit in a different light. So what it means to have a loving, abundant relationship with money. Fear looks, sounds, and feels like control. Love, on the other hand, feels like the opposite. It is unconditional acceptance. It's willing to trust that things will work out. It feels like letting go. Love feels a lot like just being in the moment.
And that's the Zen millionaire talking, because in Zen, we're not supposed to think about ourselves or what we do or have, but we are to be. Our purpose is to be. You know, what do we want to be? You know, do we want to be a happy person?
Beings.
Yes. Or do we want to create love and all that, or do we want to be this other thing? And that's for us to monitor ourselves. And I think that's what the Zen practice does.
Yeah. And if we have worry and fear in the back of our mind about money, it prevents us from living in the moment, right?
Capitalism is an interesting word these days. And he does talk about money in relationship to capitalism because he thinks it is the core of that the function of money is as an exchange, like we've talked about, but also for saving and for growth. Mm-hmm. And he has some interesting ideas about that, and I think they're worth pondering. And you're talking about greed, if you want to get into that. If these things get out of balance and you're saving all of your money because you're afraid to lose it, then it's going to have a very negative attachment to it, and it won't be moved. So he talks about generosity as one of the key elements, and the idea of gratitude being huge, that we should be grateful. And it's not how much money you have that makes you happy. He talks about that too.
Yeah, and that different people have a different amount of money that will help them. I think he calls it containers, right? You might have not enough money for your container, or you might have too small of a container, but not everybody needs to focus on always getting more and more and more, right? Like, he has some ways to find what's going to help you live in the moment, be generous, be able to live with happy money. So that was interesting. Mm-hmm. You got something to share?
Yeah, we saw that peace of mind
that
you're talking about. He says, as counterintuitive as this sounds, those among us whose parents told us directly that we were too poor when we were young should consider ourselves lucky. Sure, we may now feel resentment toward money, but at least we don't continue to blame ourselves for our parents' money. So the idea that some unfortunate children suffer needlessly and feel like it's their fault their parents are poor, their parents constantly complain about how much it costs to provide for them, even go so far as to say, I would be rich if it wasn't for you kids. And then there are parents who operate in a more passive-aggressive, damaging way. Out of embarrassment or anger over their financial circumstances, these parents tell their kids that the reason they can't take the hockey lessons is because they never follow through on anything, or worse, they aren't talented enough and it would be a waste of money. And what does a child think when he hears that? Mm-hmm. I'm a waste of money. This painful distortion of the truth is more likely the unintentional result of a parent's psychological issues than an attempt at manipulation. But the end result is the same. The children of these parents come to associate money with pain and suffering. They internalize it so much that they believe they are the root cause of suffering. Talk about emotional baggage. Mm-hmm. And, when you're children, you carry that stuff. And we've talked about trauma. That trauma goes on, and you can maladapt to that and come up with behaviors that are covering or trying to get you through that aren't the best.
And he calls these personality types?
Yes. Oh, that's really where you're talking about money IQ and emotional IQ?
Money EQ types. Mm-hmm. So you might have the compulsive saver or stockpiler. You might be the compulsive spender, the compulsive money maker. So you just keep wanting to make more. The indifferent to money type.
What's that one?
Well, like he gives the example of a man who he's a hard worker, but he doesn't necessarily manage the finances, and then his wife passes away and he doesn't really know how to handle the finances because he just never had his hand in it. So he's indifferent. He doesn't think about it. He just goes about his day like...
Not necessary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Avoidance.
And then the hippie. I actually don't remember what it says about the hippie. Hold on.
I think he calls that a yogani too.
This type places a value on not selling out or selling themselves for a price. They want to live lives that are as little affected by money as possible. Mm-hmm. And then the saver, splurger, the gambler, the warrior. I know that's all his types, but I'm sure you can find yourself somewhere, even a little bit, in one of those personalities. And then he goes on to moving beyond your personality type and understanding the negative emotions keeping you from prosperity. Yeah. But they all lead to like this anxiety, fear, doubt, guilt.
Well, that leads me to a new word that I learned, and it's been shortened to tomorrow. It comes from amaga koro, which means true or sincere heart. So he's saying that we need to achieve a state of morrow, and that's the key to success. Those who are in touch with Morrow always create win-win situations for themselves and the people around them. It follows that if you have a pure heart and true sincerity, not only will people treat you better, but you'll begin to feel the whole universe support you as well. When your Morrow increases, you invite many miracles into your life. And I think that goes to what are we spending our time on? He talks about if you're doing a job that you hate, but it pays you, that money is coming to you as unhappy money. And I've had a few conversations with people recently as well who are very unhappy with the way they're earning their money. But they're afraid to change because they'll lose money. And he says, so lose your money. You can still be happy with less.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting to that headset of, do you need more stuff? And we're living in a culture of abundance. We've talked about that several times, where more is what we're encouraged to do. I mean, our advertising, if we get into comparing ourselves with people, and he talks about as you make more money, then you spend more money, and you can still end up broke at the end of the month, even though you're making $100,000. Hey, if you're as interested in prevention as I am, contact me, Eleanor Russell, at 360health, 4u.com. Whether you're interested in financial wellness or physical health products, 360 Health invites you to become part of our community. So, back to the Morrow idea. You will become more magnetic, both emitting an attractive, positive energy, and this surrounds you with good people and things that you care for deeply. You become more passionate and energized. You express more gratitude for life, and those are all good things. And so he teaches us the word arigato, which is thank you. And so to be a happy little millionaire, we need to say thank you. And we need to have a generous spirit. And our financial wisdom is a combination of our IQ and our EQ. And so taking some time to look at those identified types that he goes over, I think is a good exercise. And then he gives you some ideas about how is money flowing through your life. And, we call it currency. And
I never thought about that.
I know. And so, what is a current? It's a flow. And he talks about
energy.
The current flowing, yeah. And it can flow into a lake or a stock. And so when we look at our cash and our assets, he's talking about cash is flowing and your assets like your stock or your real estate or whatever is sort of a lake that's holding the flow for a while, but it can release some of itself. I just love this idea. And then he talks about blind faith, which is not a good idea, and true faith, which he encourages people to do.
I don't remember that.
Oh.
Blind faith and true faith?
Oh, it's, you just go by blind faith. Things will happen.
Okay, just trusting.
Yeah, maybe inappropriately.
I'm trying to find it, but I really appreciate going off of what you said, how being in the moment, being passionate about things. Oh, here it is. How to create a happy flow of money. Donate money. You don't have to spend a fortune. Just $1 can make a difference and make you feel good. Donating money to charity sends your brain and all the energy around you the message that you have more than enough.
I went to a Tony Robbins event, and one of the things that he said that stuck to me was if you only have $10 and you can't give somebody 50 cents, when you have $100,000, you're not going to be able to give anybody anything either. So it's all that, am I a generous person or not? And when people need something, maybe it's okay to release it to them. Maybe it'd serve them better than you.
I think sometimes it's overwhelming because we do get bombarded with different people, different types of donations. So he does say,
you mean
fine.
your mail? Oh, gosh, the MS Society, American Red Cross.
Every time you go to the grocery store, the drugstore, you're asked to round up. And I think that is all great. And, there's different charities that are asking for money. So it just says find a group or a charity that is meaningful to you and in alignment with what you believe.
Yes.
And I think that's important to spend some time doing.
Yeah. And I think that's worth taking time to explore them all because their need is great out there. I mean, everybody needs.
Yeah.
But that alignment key is where it's going to flow and make a difference.
I agree,
Yeah. So the blind faith conversation? Blind faith and true faith are two very different things. Blind faith is a way of saying, oh, everything will work out, and then waiting for something to change. where true faith requires that we put our faith in ourselves and our abilities and use our knowledge about money and how it works to make sure we can move forward in a more positive direction.
So taking action,
Yeah.
flowing.
Yeah, but
rather
it's
than
like
just
take your
standing
heart,
still.
but don't leave your brain behind.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of a thing. We've got those both, and we have a gut too. So the gut and the heart and the head, will kind of direct you if you can relax into that and let the head. I have a friend that says fire your brain and hire your heart, but that might be a little too blind.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah.
This is one of the suggestions he makes for creating happy flow of money that I really like. I'm going to try it. Give something extra always.
Yes, I was going to say that when you were talking about the requests for money.
So if you give something, anything, always give something extra. When we are in a situation where we need to ask for help or borrow something, it's hard, right? You don't want to ask. You just want to ask for just that little bit. You don't want to be greedy or whatever. And this might go back to money mindset. But he says, remember this and know how hard it is to ask. So always give a little extra because they probably need it.
Yeah, I had a situation. I'm on a board, and someone made a request for money, and there was a conversation about how do we respond to that, and we didn't settle on that outcome that he just suggested.
Oh, yeah?
It was offered, but it was countered, and I'm still reflecting on that, thinking, wow, we missed an opportunity there to go beyond the request because we could have. But I think the concept was, well, if somebody else comes and makes a request, then we won't be able to help them. But nobody had made that other request,
Yeah.
There was one in front of us, and we didn't give more.
Well, I mean, here's simple examples he gives. If someone asks to borrow a pen, then give them a notebook too. If you are a boss hiring a new employee, give them a bit more than the salary they asked for. I mean, it doesn't have to be a ton.
That's the one I want to see happen.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm waiting for, is when you get the job and the guy says, well, we've agreed on this salary, but I'm going to give you another $5,000. Oh, okay. What would happen? Would I love that guy? Would I work for him like beyond forever?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, and I like this one. If you're negotiating a job with a client, see where you can throw in an extra service for free. So it always doesn't have to be money, right? It can be something valuable.
Like the insurance companies are giving us the silver sneakers now.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I don't know, is that an example?
Yeah, I guess. But he's saying this transforms the energy that might be there, right? That anxious energy with more of a compassionate, generous energy. So I just think of it as a challenge that I want to take on here and there. I mean, not always, but...
Well, I have had friends demonstrate this to me, and I try to do it now. When you are at a eating establishment and you leave a tip, you don't have to just... used to, what was it, 10% was what you used to, then it was 15, and now they give you these tabs that say if you want to leave 20, 25, or, they suggest, if calculate it out
It
for
can
you.
get pretty high.
Yeah, but, maybe it's a good thing.
Where
extra.
did tips come from? To ensure promptness is what tip means. Or
I did not know that.
Yeah, so-
to ensure promptness.
yeah.
TIP.
Oh, I learned another word.
Or you can say to ensure proper service, which tips. So
okay.
it is your reward to the establishment or the server, or sometimes they share for an experience that was above and beyond whatever. But we realize that these people, that's how they make their living most of the time, because they're paid a
Non-salary.
non-living wage.
Yes.
Otherwise, my standard is 25% now, and it used to be 10. But now I try to that, and sometimes if I can, I'll do 30.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's sometimes, you've heard the stories about people leave large chunk of change there on the table, well beyond the cost of any meal. And they do it with that, what he's saying, that they could do it, and they wanted to do it, and they did it with gratitude and love. And so that whoever receives that is just like changed.
Well, and usually on the receiving end, it's someone with a lot of passion, a big dream, and someone wanting to support that. And that kind of goes back to his full circle, like be in the moment, be passionate, care about something, and money will come around to you.
Currency.
I don't know. It's currency.
But I have witnessed some people who, to their detriment, have been givers. And we've talked about this before.
I've thought about this too as we were talking about giving more and more. Like,
Yeah.
where's the line?
Well, I think there is one, because I think that the other thing in these other books that we've read about emotional health and mental health is you take care of yourself and then take care of others. And that idea of self-care is important. So I don't think he's negating that in this book, but he's giving you some vision on what is it that you really need, you know. And don't go beyond that, beneath that. But we don't need as much as we think we may need, and we can live with less, and we might be happier with less. Where is that for you?
Yeah.
We're all different. But that idea that money does not bring happiness is a big message in here.
However, he does encourage you to receive it with joy.
And say thank you.
He gives you permission
Arigato.
that when we receive money, most of us feel joy and we're embarrassed to show it. We have been taught to repress our feelings and to never, under any circumstance, talk about money. He even says that, you know, they did this quick study where they observe people checking out, and the more you spend, the less expression you have on your face. Which was just interesting. And, you know, he says the other day I got a $2 coupon at a grocery store and I said, wow, I am happy. The person next to me gave hers to me because she liked my smile. She wanted to see me smile for her $2 coupon. I gave her my best smile.
That's cool.
Shall we talk about the 5 steps to happy money?
Okay.
He's going to wrap the book up with this recommendation, and you'll probably want to pick up the book to read a little bit more about what he says about each of these. But he wants us to start today and get into the flow of happy money. And think about it. As you're giving money away, be happy. And as you're receiving it, be happy. But number one, you need to shift out of the scarcity mindset, that idea that there's not enough. Then the second thing is to forgive and heal your money wounds. Know what your attitudes are, where they came from. And then the third thing is discover your gifts and get into the flow of happy money. You know, that idea of alignment that Kristen was talking about. If you're in your gift lane and you're feeling good about what you're doing, that's going to be attractive. It's going to bring the people to you. And he says, go to where people are, because that's where the money is. So you want to stay connected. You don't want to isolate yourself. And then this one I thought was interesting. Trust life. Trust is a major part of a happy state of being. Once you can truly trust in yourself and those around you, your life gets easier. And trust and fear cannot coexist. It is one or the other. So, and then the last thing he says is say arigato all the time.
Which arigato was the thank you.
Yeah, yes.
Be grateful.
People who appreciate life are more liked, more approachable, and more attractive. As a result, they invite all kinds of opportunities into their lives. And that's kind of a wrap for me, unless you've got another good point.
No, I mean, my only thing is that it's fun to talk about this book, Happy Money, and I feel like it's not possible for us to do him justice.
Right.
It would be worth listening to his videos, pick up this book, check out from Ken Honda himself some of these important messages.
Yeah, it's an easy read, a good read.
Yeah.
And I think for our total well-being, it's a topic we need to pay attention to. And Jack Krenfeld, the #1 best-selling author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, says this book will transform your life around money.
Yeah. That's a good one. Well, thanks for listening in. Please like, share this, and let us know if you liked something about this episode, a story we shared, or the book. Call in. We want to hear from you, or visit our social media pages and reach out there.
Yeah, and buy some books and read with us.
Health Geeks Book Club is part of the Less Desirables Podcast Network, where you can listen to our podcast as well as the Less Desirables Man Away to Town, Beeswax File Daily, Wheeler's Dog, and Pan A Pan podcast, among others. You can listen to our podcast on our website or any podcatcher of your choice, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, basically anywhere you find podcasts. And of course, on the Less Desirables Network page, tldpodnetwork.com. Find out all you need to know about all those TLD Network shows right there, tldpodnetwork.com. If you have something to say to us, you can email comments to comments@healthgeekspodcast.com. Look us up on our social media channels, and if you want to be really cool, you can call and leave a voicemail at 336-422-6862. We will play your voicemail on the air, and we would also just say domo arigato.
And I'm Kristen Norton from Well Balanced Nutrition.
And I'm Eleanor Russell from 360 Health.
Yes, thanks for listening.
Views and opinions stated in this podcast are solely those of the contributors and are not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the expressed written consent of Kristen and Eleanor.